This morning on The Dish, from small town girl to big city chef and back again. That describes Kelsey Barnard Clark and her journey from Alabama to the Culinary Institute of America to some of New York's top restaurants. Our very own Jamie Wax paid her a visit. Good morning, Jamie.
Good morning, my friend. That's right. Clark is now back home, blending all that experience with a healthy dose of Southern hospitality at her restaurant and in her new cookbook. I talked with her about that and the cooking show win that put her on the culinary map.
Fried chicken and champagne is definitely like the last meal I would eat before I die, probably. Maybe throw some caviar on there just in case.
Why not?
Of all the many places Chef Kelsey Barnard Clark has cooked, the very finest meal you might get is in her favorite spot, her home.
But what a beautiful Southern home you have here.
Thank you.
It's where we sat down to an opulent spread of Southern cuisine. Sweet corn with paprika, cheese, and citrus. Southern biscuits. Shrimp with succotash. Deviled eggs, playfully called wicked chickens.
One time someone made a joke to me. They said, "Do you know why we call them wicked chickens?" I was like, "No." And they said, "Because wicked chickens make the best deviled eggs." I was like, okay.
I am a huge deviled egg fan. This is by far one of the very most delicious I've ever had. The smokiness of the brisket, and then the brininess of the okra, and then you've got a hit of pimento cheese, which is just perfect. It creates this profile that is a deviled egg, but it's so much more.
You can't get more classic Southern than okra and pimento cheese.
The other thing I notice about your cooking is it's not just the profile of these foods that are beautiful, but it's so much about texture.
A lot of Southern recipes lack herbs, they lack acid, and they lack texture. A lot of times you'll see me adding crunchy things, and there's always herbs on everything I do. I'm a big fan of herbs. This is one of my favorite meals, like to eat personally. I ate it for lunch yesterday. I was making it actually. It's succotash, and then I love shrimp so much, so you top it with shrimp. If there was a dish that kind of described me, it would probably be this.
And a hallmark of Southern cuisine, perfectly fried chicken.
This was taught to me.
All right, I can't wait, because
You hear that? That's what you want to hear. Yeah.
oh, I mean, so juicy. And it's so beautifully crispy and fried. It's that marriage where you can't tell where the skin ends and the crust begins.
Clark grew up in Alabama, showing an interest in food at a very early age. After graduating from the Culinary Institute of America, she began cooking in some of the most respected kitchens in New York.
When I was working at Cafe Boulud, I was responsible for family meal, which in our industry is cooking for each other, right? I was working under Gavin Kaysen, and he was executive chef, and he was like, "I want you to cook your food. Quit cooking everybody else's, cook your food." And I was like, "Oh, okay, I gotta cook gumbo." I called my mom, I was like, "What's the gumbo recipe? I don't remember." So she had to type it out, and I cooked gumbo, and then it just was one of those things. I would just remember making the roux in that kitchen being kind of going, "This is crazy, and why didn't I ever write this down?"
This is a moment every single Southern home chef will relate to in this story right now.
Yeah.
After her time in New York with everywhere to choose from, she chose to continue her vision back home in Dothan, Alabama.
My plan was to go to New Orleans, and so I was coming home for just a breather because I was burnt out, truly. I said, you know what, I'm going to cater for a little bit because the caterer that I'd worked for, he was my mentor, and he had passed away, and there was this huge void for fine dining catering here. And, you know, rest is history. Didn't leave. I ended up getting here. I was fully booked for a year in about a month. And there was just this, wow. Oh yeah. And I had this moment of like, why am I so acting like I'm so against my town when they are so unbelievably supportive of me? And I think that that's just where this all started. Order up, Hayden.
From there, she opened her restaurant, KBC.
You know, when I was in high school, there was nothing, not a single business here. And
Attracting other businesses to a now thriving downtown.
I mean, this downtown area and this main street survived the pandemic.
Yes, which is, I mean, what a blessing to even be able to say that. My restaurant survived it, which most of my friends didn't.
When the opportunity came to compete on Top Chef, it meant she had to leave behind her husband and then 10-month-old son for the duration. The sacrifice paid off, and Clark took home the big prize.
Kelsey, you are Top Chef.
I think for me, it was a life lesson more than it was about the food, and it was just a wonderful experience. Because when in your life do you get to go somewhere, and anyone you've ever respected, admired, wanted to learn from is actually doing it with you for 10 weeks. All right. This is your last two.
And she's used the exposure she got from her win to spread the message that Southern cooking and hospitality should be inclusive of everyone.
It is incredibly important for me at KBC. It is always a perfect picture of what culture should look like. And I think that that's the really cool thing about this new era we're in, is Southern hospitality reaching farther than we thought it would reach.
Is it important to you that you're a major voice in that?
Oh, it is probably the most important thing to me.
The lessons and recipes she's drawn from Southern culture are now the basis for her new cookbook, Southern Grit.
And I've been a collector of cookbooks since I was 12 years old. So that's really what I always think back on when I see this book now on my shelf with all the other ones. I'm like, whoa, I wrote a book. I wrote a cookbook. Someone's reading this. You know, you don't want a ton of breading, but it's breaded enough when it's no longer wet. The most fun thing about cooking is teaching people and hopefully inspiring someone to love to cook one day.
And for Clark, staying inspired herself is everything.
I haven't even gotten started yet, is how I really feel. To me, there's never like a stopping point. You gotta keep getting better and pushing yourself and learning more and gotta keep going. Finding a new thing and then getting really good at it. And that's sort of always my goal.
Being in the moment.
Being in the moment and never settling for just now.
We have a beautiful spread from her. Literally, we've got this pimento cheese straws, which are such a great Southern appetizer and finger food, and then pepper jelly. And it's all meant to go together.
Dip the cheese fries in.
That's it. Then you got this sparkling sangria. She is a wonderful advocate for diversity in Southern cooking, for the complicated history of Southern cooking, but she's just a great chef.
That's awesome.
Really is.
Thank you.
So good.